गुड मॉर्निंग फ्रेंड्स। मैं हूं मदन सिंह और मैं आपके साथ बात करने वाला हूं अबाउट द लेटेस्ट प्रॉब्लम इन द वर्ल्ड। और ये है द इन्वेजन ऑफ वेनेजुला, द रिमूवल ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट मुदरो and the impotence, I will use the word, the impotence of China and Russia to help their ally Venezuela. Now, there are a lot of things to be thought of, gentlemen. अब मैं नहीं ये बात बताऊंगा कि what is right and what is wrong. These are all irrelevant things. In war, there is nothing right, there is nothing wrong. It is the victor who matters. And let's accept one fact that America is the biggest power in the world. Shankar talks of a multipolar world. I mean, it's all nonsense, really. There's only one power, it's a unipolar world, and that one power is the United States. If you look at Russia and China, they are local powers. They can't operate outside their realm at all. And there also, they are not omnipotent. They're not able to win anything there. Look at what happened in the famous Battle of Ukraine. Years have gone by and the Russian army is just bogged down on 20% of territory of Ukraine. What the hell is going on? Where is the famed Red Army which put Hitler's legions to rout, unable to move forward? China is surrounded by hostile neighbors, that is Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, Philippines, and to an extent Vietnam. And they don't have the South China Sea as their own fiefdom, as their own Raj. Apna Raj nahi hai unka wahan, because they don't have that power which the Americans got. And I have just put a quotation here about Bacon, who made that famous quotation that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that's true for America. But then power is power, and power dominates the world. Now that is the point we must remember, that power is something which dominates the world. Now who's going to do all this? I mean, who's going to do all this thing, what the Americans are doing? Nobody can do it except the Americans. And I would say the Venezuelan president Maduro, talking of his ability, I think it's a big zero. He was an idiot, to be very frank. There's an old saying in the Hindi language which says कि पानी में रह के मगरमच्छ से बैर नहीं करना. In other words, if you're going to stay in the water, in the river, you don't fight the crocodile. But this man, the president of Venezuela, didn't understand this axiom. And Donald Trump, let's accept the fact, is following the same policy which has been followed by all American presidents from the time of Truman. Truman, Eisenhower, you take anybody, Reagan, Clinton, Bush, all of them believed in the superiority of the Americans on the basis of their military might. Now that's the point to note. While the Indians are talking nonsense sometimes, and Narendra Modi went and made a statement somewhere, that this is not the era of war. I mean, this is the era of war. He's talking all C and B. I won't expand what it means. Because if he didn't believe in it, he wouldn't have mounted the assault on Pakistan and then got a bloody nose all over the India, the world. And then keeping quiet. I won't say anything more about it because this is not the topic. The topic is Venezuela. So as I told you, the Venezuelan president committed a big mistake. He should have realized that he's got to play his cards properly. After all, you remember Prince Talleyrand, who was the foreign minister of France. He was foreign minister to 4 governments because he was an apt diplomat. He was a great diplomat. And I think this is something which Maduro lacked. He thought he had got bravado. He was more of bravado. And what he was doing was, he was thinking, well, I'll be able to cock a snook at America. No, you can't do that. That's militarily impossible. And he thought the Chinese and the Russians would help him, And in fact, as far as my information goes, just before he was abducted, he had a meeting with the Chinese representative for 3 hours in his palace. And American intelligence was so good that they knew precisely where he was, what he was doing, where he was hiding, which was his bedroom, what he was wearing. And then there is the mystery that when the Americans came in, not a single shot was fired. And after they left, all the tanks and everybody came out on the streets. What happened when the Americans were moving? The Chinook helicopters make a lot of noise. They had to fly 100 miles and they had the radars. Why didn't any of those missiles with the Chinese given them fire? What happened? And it's a very sad spectacle that Donald Trump had ordered that Maduro not only be captured but humiliated. And here was the president of Venezuela. We have seen photographs. He was handcuffed, blindfolded, and his earplugs were put on, and he was made to walk up and down, and he couldn't do a damn thing. He must be thinking at that time that why did I play my cards wrong? Why did I back myself on China? Why did I back myself on America? On Russia? He should have realized Russia is unable to win the war in Ukraine for so many years. And the Chinese have not been able to take Taiwan, though they're making a lot of noises. You can make noises, the cymbals, the drums, and the trumpets, but the brass tacks, they have not had the guts to invade Taiwan. Why? Because they're scared of the Seventh Fleet. That's the fact of the matter. If that being the case, I don't know how the Venezuelan president could have committed such a big blunder. And now, even the other South American countries are wondering, what the hell is going to happen? Because this was what is known as a precision strike by the Americans. And I will give them full marks for him as a soldier myself and as an airman, that this was one of the finest episodes you can think of. It reminds me of the gunboat diplomacy which was being done earlier. You know what is the gunboat diplomacy? This was being practiced by the European powers, more particularly the Royal Navy. And there's a record of a battle being over within 10 minutes. When the Royal Navy went into action against the Sultan of Zanzibar, and within 15 minutes the Sultan ran away after the Royal Navy frigates opened fire from the harbour in Zanzibar, the war was over. The British had won. So it's something like that. This war didn't take any time. But then there were some fifth columnists inside. I think Maduro didn't anticipate those. There were so many people against him. Now let's accept one fact, that Maduro was a tyrant. Tyrant in the sense he was a dictator. And my report says that the last election which was held, he had lost it, but he rigged the election to win. Now my point is that if you don't have the support, you don't hold election. Why do you hold elections? Don't hold it. Having farcical elections, and then saying I'm the winner, it doesn't help because it leads to a great opposition. And as far as the Americans are concerned, they never recognized him. Neither Canada, neither England, nor France. They never recognized Maduro as the head of Venezuela. And now he's been thrown out. And what's going to happen? I think something terrible is going to happen. And Jaishankar is not able to do anything. Jaishankar, as I've already just put in a small snippet you have seen, he was from my school. And I do remember him. I think he was senior to me. I don't recollect, whether he was junior to me or senior, but I've seen his face around. Now, coming down to what is happening now, the point is that we are in great trouble. Who we? We means the Venezuelans are in great trouble. Now, in the heart of heart, the Venezuelans know that they cannot fight America, and so they should have made it a competition earlier. Relying on the Chinese or something has got little relevance, really, because China cannot operate anywhere, and China has not fought a war since, I think, 79 or 80. And that's a fact we must remember, that China has not fought a war for a long time. And that war also which they fought was against Vietnam, and they didn't cover themselves with glory, nothing much. The only real war they fought was in 62, but that was not a war, it was an unequal war, a surprise for India, which was following a policy of Gandhi and Buddha, which has got no relevance in the modern world. And we had a leader who was totally lackluster, who didn't know a thing which was happening, and we lost. The same thing has continued now as far as Maduro is concerned. He could never have anticipated the Americans will bring so much of firepower. And not only firepower, it was precision. They had their Delta troops, a special commando force which went and captured Maduro from his bedroom. He and his wife were dragged from there, put on the helicopter, taken by air to New York, and I think they are now in the detention center in New York with the CBI, with the FBI and the CIA. And they're going to be tried for so many crimes. And the least crime they're going to get is for 40 years of imprisonment. That will be the end of Maduro in jail there, unless the Russians and the Chinese are able to pressure America to release him or something, which America is not going to agree. Now, militarily, it was a great success, and इसका कुछ और repercussions भी हैं. Now, even China knows, Russia knows, the world knows, and particularly India also knows, that you don't fight the alligator in the water. The Indians are going around making a hue and cry that America did not engineer the ceasefire with Pakistan. I think it's better that the Indians don't talk about it, because from all available evidence which I have, the Americans did have a hand. To say they had nothing to do is a lot of bull. So now coming down to what is going to happen in Venezuela. Venezuela is going to be a cake bite for the Americans. They're going to eat it. पर I'm telling you one thing more, कि ये इतना आसान काम नहीं है, because इसकी जो repercussions are going to last for decades, because the entire South America will now be anti-USA, and they are. Already, as you know, I think Uruguay has cancelled a military exercise with America. Now Argentina is not with them, neither Brazil. Now these big countries have realized, what the hell? It's gunboat diplomacy. You come, shove a bayonet in our back, and then do what you like. You see, they are militarily weak. But always, if you remember what Jesus Christ said, what did he say? He said, blessed are the meek who will rule the world. So the South Americans are meek because they don't have power, they don't have strength. And there is a good chance now Donald Trump may concentrate on Cuba to remove the Cuban regime, which has been there, which is an anomaly, an eyesore to America. And I don't think Russia can do anything. The earlier Soviet Union was stronger, but the Russians themselves played into the trap of the Americans and broke into 18 countries. I don't know how you can consider Russia to be a great power, because they're basically stupid. Their leadership was stupid. They opted for communism, which is a divisive force, which divides a country, which breaks a country, and that's what happened. Now America is cock of hoop. Donald Trump is strutting the straight as a victor, and there's no doubt he's the victor. In a battle in the arena where the gladiators win, it is Donald Trump who leads. And there's nobody to face him. You think the Russians are going to face him? The Chinese? The Indians will, of course, run away at the first opportunity. They're waiting to say hello to the Americans. But at the same time, the world powers must be realistic. Unnecessarily fighting and unnecessarily trying to criticize the Americans is not the way forward. You have to match America economically, militarily. Look at India with the income of $2,800 a month or a year compared to the Americans with $90,000. I mean, there's no comparison, and yet if India thinks that, Jai Shankar thinks that, well, I'm equivalent to the United States, I think it's a bit lot of bull. You might but forget about it. Well, gentlemen, the story is just started. It's not the end. And it is one of the beginnings. They have won the war, and let us see what happens further, because there are many battles to be fought. And the biggest thing is with the Americans, I think, are the losers, is they are going to alienate most of South America and the world. Even those countries who are wary of China will be wondering what the hell is happening. What did the Americans do? What did the Americans gain by removing Maduro? He was, as it is, having no power. He was just talking, like an ass. And I think he was a bit of an ass to have just antagonized himself with the Americans. You can't fight the crocodile in the water. He was thinking he'll do it. And then, when you are ruling, you have to be the ruler, the just. Old Indian kings, who ruled, the Hindu kings, they ruled by something called dharma. What is dharma? Dharma is the path of righteousness. That is what I have to do, which Maduro was not doing. He was a dictator and he was just filching away money. I don't know what are the charges. They say he was a narcotic dealer. Maybe or maybe not. I don't know. I got no evidence. The evidence the Americans are going to present in the court now. But all this is very, very sad that it should be happening. In any case, gentlemen, I hope you like my video. If you like it, please share it with your friends and come back to me. I'll look forward to more interaction with you. And I will now say goodbye and God bless. There's nothing else I can do now except say God bless to Maduro. And Maduro must be wondering what the hell is happening now when he's in jail all the time now. And he's going to spend years and years there. You know what they did to Jack Noriega? The Americans, the ex-president, I think, of one of the countries, Nicaragua or something, he was put into jail and died there, I think. I don't know what happened to him. He was being tried as a war criminal. And India should be very careful also in dealing with the Americans. Defiance has got no relevance. And I wouldn't be surprised if Americans come up with something else against even Narendra Modi. You never know. You can expect anything from the Americans. They can dig out a rabbit from the hat, though the hat may be 100 years old, or maybe 30 years old, or 40 years old. America's military is unsurpassable. They are omnipotent. They dominate the world. 700 bases. I think it's a power which the world has never seen. Even the Roman Empire or the Mughal Empire is nothing compared to what the American power is. And the way they have removed Maduro is a feather in their cap. Well, it's what it's called gangsterism. That's part of the game. World powers behave like that. And if you want to be a world power, you be like them. I think all hats off to Donald Trump for having executed a wonderful thing. Goodbye, friends. God bless and take care.